appreciate the invitation to come speak to y'all and really give an update. I was trying to remember the last time we were here. It's probably been like 2 years. It feels like forever. This has been such a long journey in trying to get local newspaper back into our local community. Our initial effort, of course, was to buy our historic papers of record, the Reporter and the Mooresville Times. We kept knocking on that door. The door actually opened a crack for a second. We're dancing on the ceiling, excited to get those papers back, and no sooner did it open than it got closed again and deadbolted, and it remained closed. So this past April, we finally did our last inquiry to the corporate owners of those papers, and the answer remained no, and so we transitioned and said, okay, plan B, we're going to start our own. The need for local news in our community has only grown more dire as those historic papers of record have sadly sort of withered on the vine. There is little to no local news anymore. And as we know, local news, there's even studies out there that say what the effect of local news or lack thereof has on communities. Certainly starting with government spending, that inevitably goes up. No offense to any of the politicians here in the audience, but that you have a disengaged community. So you have voter turnout go down. You have fewer and fewer candidates actually running for offices. And so at every turn, not to mention just the conversations that are sort of informed and fed by having community news and sort of everybody having their finger on the pulse of what's going on in their community and really just informing those community conversations, which in a community like ours, we still like to look each other in the eye. We still like to talk. These are all the things that really help define who we are as a Morgan County community and other communities across the country. So seeing the need that was there after 2+ years, we sort of pivoted to plan B, which is, okay, I guess we're going to start our own. That followed on the heels of this last April when we did our final inquiry with Gannett. And so going back to when we were trying to purchase those papers, we had sort of put together an ownership group who was interested in buying those papers back. And so we revisited with that group and said, okay, here's plan B. If you want to cut your losses and say good luck to you, that's totally fine. But who's on board for plan B, which is really bringing from the ground up a brand new newspaper. And I could not be happier. We have 9 people who are part of our ownership group. Every single one of them is based in Morgan County. Every single one of them is in it for all the right reasons. None of us are in it to be millionaires, of course. Media moguls, we are not, nor will we ever be, and that's fine too. We are in it because we care about the community. That is at the heart and soul of everybody who is part of this group. As many of you may know, I think we have 3 attorneys, we have a funeral director, we have a college student, certainly Josh, myself, we have a paleontologist. So if you don't know Steve Bodie, he's running the Southern Paleontologist Institute. We are happy to have him on board. Just a really fantastic group of owners. And so then we made that decision sort of formally in June to say yes. Is everybody on board? We're on board. Okay, next up is the county fair. And maybe a month, I think maybe a little less than a month, we said, okay, this is a real thing. We're going to make it happen. We need to be at the county fair. We need to let folks know who we are, what we're trying to do. And so it was a matter of sort of the ready, fire, aim scenario. Where we knew we wanted to be ready for the county fair, and so we're getting our marketing and promo materials together and really trying to get all our ducks in a row related to that effort. The reception at the fair was fantastic. You sort of speculate, okay, I think people want local news. That's certainly what we're betting on. But the reception that we got at the fair was not just that they want it, but they need it. The need is real. We need local news back in our local community. And so I think coming out of the fair, we had over 400 early bird subscribers. These are folks ready and willing to take the same leap of faith that we are, who are actually signing on the dotted line and said, yes, I will subscribe to a county newspaper, sight unseen, because we want local news. And so we ultimately, after the fair, we sort of very quickly transitioned to say, okay, we promised them a local newspaper, now we need to make a local newspaper. And so, end of August was our timeline. And it's like, okay, trying to get our ducks in a row on that front. And by gosh or by golly, we sort of just started pursuing, knowing what we needed to get in place. We had our printer in place. I started shoring up content producers, certainly at the local level. And really, I half joke that part of this effort is getting the old band back together. As you'll see, there are many familiar bylines in the Morgan County Correspondent. There are many familiar faces. Certainly in my previous role as editor of the Reporter in Mooresville Times, I knew a lot of these folks, and I also sort of felt their pain when they were getting cut loose, one after another, as those papers did wither on the vine. And so as I'm making these calls, the excitement is building even internally from these folks that I've been working with for years prior. And was very, very happy to get all of them back in place. And so, of course, Lance Gideon, who's now covering Mooresville government, he worked alongside me for many years. He's now working at the State House, so he went to the dark side. However, he was willing to help our cause. He understands, he lives in Morgan County, he loves Morgan County. Certainly when you're working for a news organization in a particular place, you get to know it on much deeper levels than the average citizen, I would say. And so he was on board from start to finish. Of course, everybody's favorite newsman, Keith Rhodes, he too was on board, and he was ready to join that effort. And over the last 2+ years, I've been reassuring him, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith. We can pull this off. Because certainly, again, community newspaper is vital on many levels in terms of anchoring identity and just the benefits that go with it. And so we have Keith on board, many familiar columnists on board. And so as we're sort of eyeing the end of August, okay, we need to get this paper out. And then every week from then on out, we sort of, the pieces fall into place without speaking to anybody as a believer or not. Please believe, I believe God is on the side of newspaper people. Every edition is a mini miracle in and of itself. But I've seen way too many occasions where we don't know how we're going to fill this news hole. We don't know how we're going to get that story. And like manna from heaven, there's always a piece that falls into place and it makes it happen. And so as we're putting together these newspapers, the pieces have really fallen into place, oftentimes through no efforts of our own. We have Melissa Plunkett, who is on board, who she inquired on us and said, hey, you guys need an ad rep probably, right? Oh yes, we probably do. Ads are going to be an important piece to the puzzle. And she's been instrumental in helping that cause. We have a fantastic office manager, Kimberly Pond, who's also been fantastic, hit the ground running. And again, as has been said, we're sort of flying this airplane as we build it. And so I have been completely humbled by the response that I've heard from the community members. And I'm also sort of encouraged because I know that all our cylinders aren't even firing yet. I have a few tricks up my sleeve that I want to get into print. We're not there yet, but we will be. Top priority, as I was telling Mr. Mitchell, is we are looking to hire a full-time reporter. And first priority of that is to get our school news back into print relative to really covering school boards as a government entity again. Certainly all the school districts, they have folks that are giving us sort of the lighthearted stuff. Very happy to get that. As we often joke, we're sort of refrigerator papers. And so every edition, if you get little guys and gals that are in print, you get their names in there, please believe somebody's going to cut that out and put it on the refrigerator. That is why we do what we do. That really defines a community newspaper. It's the little stuff. It's not all the big stuff, and certainly that's part of the equation, certainly part of the spectrum of traditional news covers that we're looking to do. Certainly that starts with government reporting. It certainly has the featured news, certainly the history news that has been absolutely fantastic as we're getting those pieces into the paper and really letting folks know, guess what, we have a very, very rich history here in Morgan County, and really reminding them of what shaped us, and also in and reminding what shaped us, helping guide us into the future too. And so that piece has been fantastic. Lots of pieces that really, again, have just sort of fallen into place. It is not my newspaper. It has been a group effort start to finish. And at the end of the day, it is the community's newspapers, whether it's the contributors, whether it's the subscribers, the advertisers, it takes all of us. And so I know I've talked to a lot of folks, even going back a couple years, and we're looking to rally some potential investors. And at the end of those conversations, guess what? If you don't want to invest, totally fine, not a problem at all. What we really will need in this effort are the community cheerleaders. Again, we live in a community where we're looking at each other, we're talking to each other. Word of mouth is still a very powerful thing. And so we will take your support by word of mouth. And so that continues to be my mantra in terms of just getting the word out. I know there's still a lot of folks that still don't know we're out there. Our first, just yesterday was our 3rd edition. Next week will be our 4th. All 4 of those editions we've been sending out to subscribers, in addition to, in total, 10,000 households around the county. Again, just trying to get the word out about who we are and what we're trying to do. And so after that, we will be transitioning to subscribers only. This week, we crossed 1,000 subscribers. And so we started with 623. We are now averaging approximately 200 a week. Humbling, encouraging, all of the things of why we started this in the first place is because we felt there's a need. We know there's a need, but we felt that others agreed that we want local news back in our community. And so having over 1,000 subscribers 3 weeks in is, I tried not to go into it projecting like, oh, I think we're gonna hit this and hit that. And hitting 1,000 this early is, frankly, more than I had expected. Again, trying to minimize what expectations I may have, but really is encouraging in terms of seeing the community response. And we're only a weekly, right? This time next year, I would love to say we're twice a week or 3 times a week. Our eyes are on multiple times, but by nature of just sort of crawling before you walk, you start where you can. And being a weekly, it's still a extremely robust publication. You pick up one of those newspapers, there is not a word, there is not a picture that comes from outside the county line. Every single piece of content, everything in there is all Morgan County all the time. And we couldn't be happier about that. That really is, we've had the blinders on, and that really has been the mission from day one, is to have all things Morgan County, a one-stop place, information source for folks to really know what's going on around here. I know in terms of the content that is there, and that is one of those that I would love to transition to hear from you all. But I know just to sort of set that tone, we are looking to get a cartoon page. I've heard that question quite a bit. Puzzles, crosswords, crypto quips, Sudoku. So that is one of those, and I don't know if anybody's familiar. My grandfather, Dr. George W. Crane, used to run in the Reporter every day, up until the day he died, actually, which was in 1995. And he was sort of plagued by dementia for the last 10 years, and so I have very vivid memories of my dad taking his old columns and updating the language and sort of changing the old names to newer names. And really maintaining my grandfather's legacy of the Worry Clinic. So my grandfather was a syndicated columnist, so those are all his. And so, long story short, on the puzzle page, you may be seeing the Worry Clinic resurrected as another piece to the puzzle. And really just finding those pieces that have not been there, and it really is sort of rejuvenating all things Morgan County. So with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions. I would also love, I know traditionally newspapers, they also have what's called editorial boards, where you tend to get a group of a dozen citizens, community leaders, and really give ongoing feedback to the local newspaper of how they can improve coverage, what people might like to see or not see so much of. So I'd love to open it up to questions in general. I would love to open it up to feedback of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Again, this is very much a group effort. I know I tend to be the face of the operation for better or worse, but we are all 100% devoted to Morgan County, to making this a successful operation. Could not be happier about just the first 3 weeks, and we're just getting warmed up. So with that, we'd love to hear from folks if they have any questions, and we can sort of take it from there. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm waiting for George Crane to come back. I'm worried that, is it George?
The ghost of George Crane. Yes.
On another matter, with regards to communications and of course the changing habits of communications, I mean, so two things. Are you looking to, in terms of revenue, base it all on subscriptions or then mesh in advertising with that?
Absolutely.
And then the second, and I don't know what the balance would be there to make it successful. The second thing is that I see a great opportunity to mesh all types of communications, whether it be internet, pushing out the web page, and also videos, from whether you like it or not, TikTok and YouTube and all those others are very strong. And what is the community strong in? There's a lot of high school athletics and stuff like that. So maybe there might be opportunities to merge all of these.
Absolutely.
In terms of all your communications, print happens to be one venue, but it's this, voice, video, data, whatever it takes. Can you comment?
Absolutely. So I started journalism school in 2005. In 2005, the writing was on the wall. Internet's the future. Digital's the future, right? With that, I knew full well I wanted every tool in my tool belt that I could. Video, photography, writing, sort of anything that I could in terms of the multiple mediums that you have at your disposal. Social media was just starting. Facebook was still at that stage where they limited it to people who were in college. And then of course they sort of cultivated that culture of cool and then opened it up to everybody else. So I certainly laud Zuckerberg for his marketing skills, but by and large he did not invent social media at all whatsoever. That said, in terms of that multifaceted approach, I'll be honest, in terms of our demographic, here's what we're shooting for. And this is actually, because I know, going back to journalism school, the question is like, oh, how are we going to get the millennials on board? They're all digital. They're digital natives, that they would always call them. At that time, the millennials were maybe 20-somethings. And guess what? I don't know about you when you were in your 20s. Me personally, and I know there's plenty who are exceptions to the rule. Personally, I did not care about my local newspaper. I was not engaged in my community in that way. And so when you see that re-engagement really take place is when folks get married, have kids, and those kids start in a local school district. Because then they're like, oh wait, I need to be paying attention to what's happening with the school board, because that school board is going to affect my child's education. And so then the dominoes begin to fall, and you start re-engaging with the community at a larger, oh, I need to pay attention to the school board? Maybe I should pay attention to the city council too. Maybe I should pay attention to county government. And so then you start seeing that re-engagement take place. So that's a long-winded way of me saying, in terms of our demographic that we're focused on, is probably 35 to 40 on up. So we could spend time and energy trying to appeal to the TikTok crowd, which is a real thing, but in terms of our wheelhouse, our focus is probably 35 to 40-ish on up. And so in terms of our social media, we certainly have a website. We'll certainly have an e-edition available once those 4 weeks come and go next week. And we will have certainly our Facebook. But in terms of that demographic, that's probably, we got Instagram going, but not yet. But that's on our radar anyway. But that's probably going to be the extent of those efforts. Certainly the first 4 weeks, our blinders are on for a strong, robust print product. We want a strong newspaper. And the reason for that, there are in fact many scientific studies out there. If you Google, and I would recommend you do, if you Google readability, print versus digital, So there are scientists out there who are looking at readability, print versus digital. Print wins every category. And it's not just newspapers, it's books, it's magazines. But there's something to be said about the multi-sensory experience of opening a newspaper, going on a self-guided tour where it's far more of a cathartic, passive experience versus the digital experience, which, as we all know, as we're getting on our smartphones and everything else, is very much an active, almost restless experience when you're getting ads out of your way. And of course, big tech is telling you what you want to read next. They know best for you. And so you're sort of fighting it at every turn. And what are we seeing now? The pendulum is starting to swing. The screen fatigue is a real thing. And so the gloss is sort of worn off that yes, technology, it ain't going anywhere, but it is not the end all. And so I sort of point back to when e-readers became the rage in the early 2000s. Of course, everybody, oh, bookstores are going to go away, libraries are going to go away. Guess what? They haven't. And in fact, the pendulum is swinging the other direction. People are realizing there's something unique and special about holding a book, holding a newspaper, and going through a newspaper. And in fact, in terms of print winning in every category, part of that is a wider knowledge base. So you may see an article that you're not going to see digital because they're telling you exactly what you want to read. But in a newspaper you might be perusing, you'll see an article, oh, that's not of much interest, but you'll read the first paragraph or two, next thing you know, you read the whole thing, and you learn about something that you otherwise wouldn't. And so you also see retention. You're going to remember far more when you're sort of on that self-guided tour as opposed to a 3x5 inch screen where you're just sort of scrolling, and the immediacy and time is of the essence when you're sort of in that digital sort of restless state of going through your phone. And so most of our eggs are in the print basket. We want a very strong print newspaper. Going to the other question of revenue, industry-wide, as newspapers have seen sort of their advertising revenue start to go down, they have leaned heavily, or at least put a little more emphasis on the subscription side, but that's also going back to the larger trends that we are going against, to be honest. And so advertising is still going to be our primary revenue stream, as it is with most newspapers, and subscriptions traditionally have been sort of the icing on the cake, but the sort of sustaining revenue came from advertising. These days it's sort of a healthier balance of the two, but I would still say advertising is still the primary revenue stream. Mr. Mitchell.
I'm a dinosaur.
Hey, see, screen fatigue is not a problem for you.
No, I love your newspaper. I've got all 3 or 4 editions. Now that you talk about advertising, when are you going to be able to put the county budgets in your paper?
Sadly, and we're going to be talking to state legislators about this, the requirement in Indiana to qualify as an official newspaper of record. Anybody want to take a guess how long that is?
3 years.
3 years. 3 years. 3 ridiculous years. So with that, we speculate. I don't even know when that law was made. I know when I worked for a newspaper in Wyoming, it was 1 year. You had to print every week or every day for 1 year, and then you qualified as a newspaper. 3 years, we speculate that was probably done in the golden era of newspapers, when these fat cat publishers did not want competition, so how can we make it as onerous as possible for competition to enter? 3 years is ridiculous, but that is what it is. And so we are talking to lawmakers to see if we can't find an easy amendment on-ramp, whether it's locally owned or 1 year, whatever it may be. Because frankly, there's a few other stipulations involved to qualify as a newspaper of record, including having 10% of the local population as being part of the readership. Guess what? The reporter don't qualify anymore. Not that anybody's paying attention, but they ain't got 10% of the population. And so what happens when you no longer have any newspapers that qualify as papers of record? That is a question for the lawmakers up in Indy. But yes, 3 years. Now you're free to publish them in our paper, but you're not required to. So if there's any government agencies out there, feel free to put your public notices in our paper. You are free to do so. We will not turn you away. Yes?
How does the local organization submit an article?
Yeah, absolutely. We invite all press releases from anybody who's out there doing stuff. I know I just spoke to Mr. Nash about getting some stuff in there. Happy to do it. We are a conduit in many respects. We certainly do the broad spectrum of coverage, hard news and otherwise, but we also a conduit of just sort of the one-stop shop for all things information from our community. And so I would be the point person on that. Email, you can call and get the email, but yeah, emailing me would be the best bet to get anything into print of that sort for sure.
And I put your business cards on the front table, so if anybody needs one of those business cards.
Yes, business cards over there, so feel free to take one for sure. That'll get you to the nerve center at 1 in terms of the midterm. Anybody else have any questions? I would love feedback too. What are you seeing that you don't care for so much, or what are you not seeing that you wish you would? Or maybe you haven't seen any of it, in which case I would invite you to grab a copy, subscribe, whatever it may be.
There's some very thin, faint font. Sometimes under pictures,
Some of the cut lines we call the captions
yeah, little paragraph,
that are almost a light gray.
they're too light, I think,
Next week they will be dark.
think.
No, I mean honestly, kind of this very comment. These are all things under our control. So there's many things we can't control in this world. So why not get the things we can? So yes, we will darken those up. Happy to do it.
And you might tell them where your office is.
Yes, the office, we have a fantastic office space we could be happier about. We try to get as close to downtown as we could. Certainly both literally and figuratively as part of the nerve center of the county seat and all that good stuff. But we are at 109 East Morgan Street. So we are right across the way from Steve's Appliance, from the Red Barn Thrift Store. And we just got our signage last week, so now people aren't walking the entire block to find out where 109 East Morgan is. But feel free to stop by at any time. Yes, ma'am.
Just a positive, but my mother-in-law received her first edition, and she was so excited, she ran another to us.
Awesome, yes. No, and I mean, honestly, the feedback that we've been getting, I mean, you see it on Facebook, and that's lovely, for sure. But hearing it, where you can hear the excitement in somebody's voice, that really is what's underscoring the mission that we sort of, and the leap of faith that we are taking in this entire endeavor. But to hear that really, it really and truly is encouraging. And nobody is working in a newspaper business because, again, they want to be millionaires. I'm not sure if it was a blessing or curse, but I was raised, I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and at the heart of our upbringing, I don't care what you do in your life, serve, serve, serve. And so you look at newspaper, and it is a true service when done well. You are serving the community, and all of us, the ownership group, the folks that are working with us, making it happen week in, week out, we are happy to serve. I mean, that's why we do it. So hearing that it really is. I mean, it's that's the stuff. That's why we're doing it. Yes, sir.
Well, I'm gonna shut up after this, but you.
I don't believe that one bit, Bill.
Public communications, my wife is public very much, I'm a dinosaur. I got the first correspondent, I read it through the page to page, and she grabbed it up and she read it page to page. So see, she read it to have it in her hands, like you said, well, go have something in your hands to look at.
It is, and there really is something about it, and it's one of those things that a lot of people don't put it into words even. You're not sure why you enjoy it, but it is a different experience. When you're sitting there holding it, and you're looking, and you're just sort of going at your own pace, and your own flow, and it's an enjoyable experience that you simply can't get online and digital. You can have an experience, you can get knowledge, you can get all of these things, but by nature of the very different mediums, a newspaper is a good thing. And Ms. Kivett, did you have a question?
Well, I shamefully got excited to see an obituary in the second edition. but
You're not the only one.
I think that that is something that's wonderful, that we have access to that now.
Absolutely. And that was one of probably, I mean, you hear a lot of different themes arise, but the obituaries was one of the most common themes. And why? Again, you're talking about community. And you're talking about people that you know, people that you love and care about. You may not see them for 5 years, but you know they're still in the community and you love and care about them. Sadly, unfortunately, with those previous newspapers, guess what? Whether it was the price point, whether it was the lack of timely publication, because part of it, you're trying to get an obituary out there, because hey, guess what? This person passed away. Their visitation and service is at this time. And so part of it is letting folks know they passed, but also, hey, here's an opportunity to support. And so getting those in, and so you just sort of saw them disappear from the newspapers for a couple different reasons. And so to get those back into print, that too goes to the heart and soul stuff of community and the community newspaper in terms of getting that word out there. Yes, sir.
So being a former printer and publisher of a newspaper over 20 years ago, there's a lot of people who are part of this community who move away. But they still want to maintain their roots to this community. So my question is, I haven't seen your paper yet, I'm looking forward to it. But a digital subscription might be something to think about, because once you create the art, it's only a few more steps to create it digitally, to then send it away to people who want to stay in touch with their hometown.
Absolutely. And in fact, so that will be part of next week. That will be the 4th week where we're doing that mass mailing, sending it to many. After that 4th week, then we will be offering an e-edition subscription. And in fact, these days it's actually one less step, because it's literally the PDFs that we send to the printer. And so it's not even a reproduction. It's in fact the original files that are the exact newspaper that folks will be holding in their hand the next day. And so yes, that will be available, although even now, actually, in terms of subscribers, I've been doing the Wednesday drop at the post offices, Martinsville, Mooresville, and so we're trying to make sure all the bundles are right. We have print subscribers from California to Florida to Virginia. Believe it or not, Morgan County News is going nationwide. And it's already out there. I mean, there are, for all those reasons that you just stated, there are people that may be used to live here, but guess what? Roots are a powerful thing, regardless of where you live. I spent 20 years everywhere but Morgan County was always home. And so I work at community newspapers here, there, and wherever. Now I get to work at my hometown community newspaper. It's a good thing. It really is. Roots are a powerful thing, and so we have folks that are out there doing it, but we will absolutely have an e-edition available starting next week, maybe the week after. We got a few ducks to get in a row there. Mr. Nash.
Is mail delivery the long-term plan? And if so, how do you make sure that it's being mailed in a timely manner?
We rely on the federal agency. Oh, Lord help us.
You know your low priority when it comes to election.
So it's interesting, and we totally underestimated how many hoops and boxes must be checked, and different categories of mailings are out there, right? And so with that, I mean, really and truly, and this goes back to when I was first hired at the Reporter in 2017. At that time, we were using carriers. Half the carriers were phenomenal. They've been doing it for years. They knew their customers. Everything was hunky-dory. The other half were not. And so literally the phone, and Davey worked there, and I'm not sure if the same issues were plaguing it at that time, but the phone would ring off the hook, literally, all day, every day, of people who did not get their papers. So I was there when they transitioned to postal delivery, and it was crickets. Literally the next day, when we went to postal delivery, by and large, they got them there. Now you'd still get your calls if somebody missing a paper. But industry-wide, that is the trend. People are going to postal delivery. Not that you're 100% success, but we'll say 95% success, which is a heck of a lot better than 50%. And so, yes, that will be where we are and where we will be in terms of the long-term delivery strategy. Yes?
Are real estate transfers part of the legal?
They will, well, no, we're gonna be doing property transfers, yes. And so that's,
Well, it's nice to know what's happening in your township.
absolutely, find out who moved in next door, yes. No, this is all it, and these are records and data that we chase down, but we will be getting property transfers. We're gonna be shooting for once a month to find out who sold what and who bought what and where. Yes, ma'am. Yes?
Are you doing any local sales with dual editions instead of subscriptions?
We will, thank you, yes, that was the point that I meant to make and did not. So after next week, when we're done with that fourth and final mass mailing, then we will be transitioning. Right now, single copies are only available in our office. After that, we will be distributing to stores and gas stations around the county. So we will have single copy sales here, there, and everywhere. And so we'll be putting that list out there. We'll probably put it in print, just to help get the word out, as well as on the website and all that good stuff, just so folks know where they can pick up a copy. Yeah, thank you for asking.
One more?
I thought, right, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Tell us everything else about newspaper and how much.
Absolutely.
How much it's gonna cost per prescription?
So for a year, for those that did not get on the early bird special, for a year, it's $75. So you do the math, 52 issues, it's $1 and change for an issue. And then for half a year, it'd be $45.
It's a whole lot more important than the Indianapolis Star that I take, because that's,
And a whole lot cheaper.
yes, and more informative.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
For those of us that have already subscribed to the print edition, will we have access to the digital when it comes, when we start doing
Absolutely.
that?
You will have the keys to the kingdom. However small it might be, yes, you will. So when the e-edition comes out, you'll have your way, and, yeah, you can, you'll be able to go here, there, and everywhere.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mr. Adams?
I don't know where to begin, except say basically a real huge thank you. But I was thinking as you were talking, most of you enjoy, I was watching people read your papers, and I love that part. But Jeff Benny and I met about 20 years ago at an economic development thing about Ball State. One of the first things that people that are looking at our county look at is us. And so far, there's not a real good look until this newspaper. I don't think we all realize that the chamber's all existing for promotion of economics and growth and the businesses. What you're doing and what you're accomplishing is gonna make a humongous difference in the way people see us. I know we're gonna see each other, but there's outsiders that are looking at us all the time. And when they see what we are, look at it. I'm so glad to see what you're doing. I appreciate that very much from my position in the county, but more as just a citizen that's got grandkids, because you're making their future, all of our futures just brighter. And I appreciate that.
I appreciate you, Mr. Adams. And that really does go, I mean, the mission, of course, to inform. But you talk about those other sort of more abstract notions of what a newspaper can do, and what sort of role it plays in a community, really anchoring identity, giving us a platform to tell our stories, plural, big and small. I mean, we had a first grader at the elementary school of communications who's standing there with a microphone introducing herself to the class. That's it, that is community news. Then we have the commissioners who are spending all of our money. That too is I joke, sort of. But that too is community news. So it is the full spectrum of community happenings. And so 2024 is going to be a big year for Morgan County and forevermore after that. When they open I-69 from here to 465, it's going to have an effect, a permanent effect on the identity of Morgan County as we see population evolve, population grow. And so even getting that going this year to really sort of cement that is in place prior to was not lost on us, that we needed this ASAP to get this newspaper in place for many of the reasons you listed, Mr. Adams, and I appreciate your words.
I want to piggyback onto that. Right here in this very room, that row of chairs up there, major decisions for our future are being made from the county level, our growing population. Some people in this community don't want to see growth. We have no choice but to grow with the facilities that have been put in place. And we very rarely have the public attend our meetings. They're open to the public. They're available on video. Very few people come. This is your resource to know what's going on, why we're doing it. Your members of the county council, all 7 of us, as well as your 3 county commissioners, are very approachable. Right out here in this hallway are posters of what is taking place on this compound. Then we'll move to the courthouse. That's your tax dollars. You're all part of our community, whether you're a business, whether you live here or not, you've got ties to Morgan County. And I applaud you guys for coming on board at the time that you have to keep people informed. Just hold on, because exciting things are coming our way. Thank you.
I do have to joke that oftentimes reporters attend the meetings so that the public doesn't have to endure them. But with that, no, I mean, it really is true. And in fact, we ran a cartoon where, and in fact, even our cartoons are local. We have 2 local cartoonists who are putting cartoons on the opinion page and otherwise. But with that, if you saw it, it was a little poster on the back. Public budget hearing, Uncle Sam sitting at a table surrounded by money, and he's looking at his watch because the seats are empty. There is a disengagement that occurs, despite the fact these decisions are significant. They are shaping our future. And so, going back to going to those meetings and helping keep folks informed, because as you know, you're out there in the community and people are grabbing your ear about it. They may not attend the meeting, but we will give them at least some truth via coverage to actually grab your ear and have something to talk about. And so part of it is just to inform the community about these decisions that are happening, that are being made, and letting them form their own opinions and grab the various ears as they're so inspired. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity.